Countdown. We're live. Hello, welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show, where I like to discuss politics. And I like to talk about two people that are basically being useful idiots for the right as a cover to promote bigotry. Now, before I get started, when I define the word right is a large prism, it's a large spectrum. Just as being on the left is a large prism and a large spectrum. I am not here to say that anybody who votes Republican are a bunch of bigots. I know many people on the left that has that mentality. I don't. So I want to get that out of the way. Having that said, you're still going to find a more bigoted mindset in a group of conservatives than you would those on the liberal left, depending on how you look at things. Yeah, you're going to look at people on the right, and there are going to be some people, they're going to be like, well, gee, Richard Spencer makes a lot of sense. And then you're going to have folks on the left, they're going to say, well, gee, Louis Farrakhan makes a lot of sense. And I would argue whether Louis Farrakhan is a left-winger or not. I would not. I think that if you are an anti-Semite or if you're a homophobe, and even if you hate white people, don't think that's a leftist mindset. No leftist worth their mustard is going to hate somebody on the basis of their religious, ethnic makeup or their sexual orientation, and even white Western man. So there is that. So, but yeah, well, I said that if you look at a group of conservatives, yeah, if they're basically trying to think, if they're basically a Jack Kemp like figure. Yeah, they're not gonna have a racist bone in their body. If they're Jesse Helms, they're gonna be fucking bigoted as hell. So that's kind of the perimeters that I work with in that regard. Now, when it comes to online personalities, and we're going to talk first. We're going to talk about first Dave Rubin, and then I'm going to follow with Caitlyn Jenner. As you know, oh, that's not good. There we go. As you know, Dave Rubin is a former progressive. You hear me talk about Dave Rubin occasionally on this program. You hear me talk about Glenn Beck as well on this program. Well, Dave Rubin used to be with the Young Turks. He was kind of considered one of many people who work for TYT that were, on the left. And that would be a fair assessment. I'm not going to say he was a deeply philosophical, entrenched leftist, but he expressed left-of-center views. Looking back over the years, when Dave Rubin was a liberal or a progressive, he was pretty milquetoast compared to some of the other members of the Young Turks. I'm not knocking him down for it. I'm just in that regard when he was on the left or nominally on the left. But what I'm saying is that, he wasn't really that deep of a thinker. I'm not saying he's stupid. I'm just saying, he's not that deep into it. But there was a time that you could make an argument that Dave Rubin was a Bernie bro, a Bernie Sanders supporter. In 2015 and early 2016, he was speaking favorably of Bernie Sanders. I missed that Dave Rubin. But then he became he turned Republican, and it's like he's trying to give up everything he believed in previously as a progressive. About the only thing, and I would not consider two dudes sucking each other's dick as left wing or right wing, but that's the only identity that's from his previous time period that people can recall. He's an anomaly because he's a gay man that became a conservative. So he went into what most people would consider enemy territory. And he's buddying up with people like Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro, and Dinesh D'Souza, that sort. He ended up working with the Blaze TV, the network affiliated with the likes of Glenn Beck and people like Mark Levin and so forth. Well, the thing about Glenn Beck is this, and Glenn Beck is a grifter. Glenn Beck does not know what he is one day to the next. One day, he's this conspiracy nut that combines Alex Jones style paranoia in a Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity package of normie movement conservatism. And then the next day, he will argue that he's a libertarian and take a position that will almost surprise you. I have noticed that pattern. So he kind of shifts back and forth. He doesn't know what to believe. And he lost a big chunk of his audience because he hated Donald Trump in 2016 and was a never Trumper in 2016. Then he turned into the biggest Trump ass licker you can ever imagine, giving Donald Trump rim jobs on his radio show. And the thing about Glenn Beck is this. He was pro-choice at one time, even as a Republican. He was pro-choice. He is a party line tactic that you got to go and be pro-life like you're on a right-wing figure. That's basically the hill you die on. And there's a little bit of flexibility probably in the last several years as the conservative movement evolved. And actually, I have to give it to him. In 2015, 2016, 2017, he was talking about Vladimir Putin. He was talking about heterofascism and the homophobia that exists in the Russian government of Vladimir Putin. And I was just like, oh, cool. So he was kind of warming up to civil unions, which in conservative territory land, prior to same-sex marriage being legal in all states, you can get a Republican to say they support civil unions. You can almost have a conversation back in those days. He's kind of backtracked as he befriended people like Dave Rubin. He made it clear that he did not support Dave Rubin and his husband, David Janet, getting ready to adopt some kids. And I know that deep down, he probably don't even give a shit about the issue one way or the other. I really believe that, but he has a fundamentalist Christian base, just like most radio talk shows have on the right. So you got to go and appease the fundamentalist Christians that overlap people who are foreign policy neoconservatives in this Heritage Foundation puke politics that defines talk radio, ranging from the late Rush Limbaugh to Sean Hannity to Mark Levin, people of that nature, Bud Sexton, and of course, Glenn Beck. And then, you have Steven Crowder, who's a vile homophobe that Dave Rubin sucks up to. Same thing with Ben Shapiro. I think of all the homophobes, probably Ben Shapiro is the most polite of them all. But the thing about Dave Rubin is that Dave Rubin is a human being like anybody else, and he was hoping that he could be seen as quote unquote one of the good ones. And I would agree with Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland when they brought up that point on Majority Report. I believe it was last week. And I think that might have been the case with Dave Rubin. He thought that he could win over the conservatives because he doesn't come across as quote unquote militant or overbearing. He doesn't come across as a quote unquote gay activist. He tries to presents himself as a reasonable libertarian of, hey, I respect you, and and I kind of just like to be left alone kind of attitude that exists among libertarians. And so I think that's what he was hoping for. I think he thought in his heart of hearts, in his mind, he thought he could win a big chunk of the conservatives over, even those who are like culturally fixated in a previous era, where being openly hostile toward LGBTQ people were considered fair game in the movement. Well, he had a rude awakening, and he knows that pretty much almost everybody hates him in that movement. I'm no fan of Megyn Kelly, but I will have to congratulate her because she's one of the few conservatives that seem genuine in wishing Dave Rubin the best with him and his husband, David Janet, in raising 2 kids. And honestly, I do not like Dave Rubin politically. I don't know the man, but I don't think he will make a horrible father. I mean, yeah, I think he'll probably do all right. I mean, I don't think he could be any worse than any straight couple raising kids. But the thing about it is that he allowed that movement to walk all over him, and so he has no self-respect in that regard. So, and Sam Cedar pointed out that he thinks that Glenn Beck is looking for an out. And by having him on the show a few weeks ago, that will be a way to try to ease his way out of not renewing any contract obligations with Dave Rubin on the Blaze TV. Well, to Dave Rubin, when he realizes that they all hate him and he's isolated from the mainstream right, you have 2 routes to go. If you want to stay nominally on the right and be loved by the right, you're gonna have to be a strict libertarian and ditch the Republican Party. And if you're going to support the Republican Party, you know, someone perhaps like a Rand Paul or a Ron Paul type. You're not going to get anywhere by sucking up to Glenn Beck and Sean Hannity and Mark Levin, let alone Phil Robertson or crazy batshit crazy people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. So that's my message to Glenn Beck. You can go libertarian, where they're going to be like, yeah, man, yeah, legalize pot. Hey, I'm cool with the gays, man. Yeah. Anarcho-capitalism. I Ayn Rand all the way, man. Yeah. You can go with that crowd in the Libertarian Party, or you could go back to the left and say, hey, I fucked up. So you have those 2 choices, Dave. And so you got a choice to make. You got a decision to make. And right now, you're in the situation you're in. You made your bed, you lie in it. So there's that about Dave Rubin. Now, I want to talk about somebody who used to be called Bruce Jenner, who is now Caitlyn Jenner. And what I got to say about Caitlyn Jenner. Now, as you probably know by this point, Caitlyn Jenner now will become a Fox News contributor. And right there is a situation that that when she's talking, they're going to ask her questions regarding LGBTQ issues. Now, for the life of me, I can't figure her out, because she used to be Bruce Jenner as a male, transitioning into Caitlyn Jenner. And somewhere along the ways, while transitioning, and apparently still her current position, she's against same-sex marriage. I mean, does that make any sense? I mean, does that make any sense? And, the thing about it is, just like Day Rubin, I think she's expecting that conservatives are going to win her over. She's pro-business, she's pro Donald Trump. She's a Republican. She is an example of the living embodiment of capitalism. And so she figures, she will use her status as a transgender woman, that maybe that a lot of the Republican establishment that were uneasy about issues like transgenderism, that they would basically support her and support the movement. There's even less tolerance in the Republican Party for transgender people than there are for people who are strictly gay individuals or lesbian individuals or bisexual individuals. So she's got a higher hill to climb than Day Rubin. And so here's the situation that the Fox News, and I think she knows this, the Fox News hired her to use as a cover to say, hey, I'm not prejudiced against transgender individuals. Look, we hire Caitlyn Jenner. And, Glenn Beck with his Blaze TV. Look, we hired Dave Rubin. We obviously don't give a shit somebody's gay. And so that's done as a cover. I'm going to get in a little trouble here with some thoughtful conservatives, what I'm about to say. But usually when someone like a Clarence Thomas is being held as a role model, or Candace Owens, or someone like Thomas Sowell, someone like that, all of a sudden, a lot of the white Republicans, the ones who are genuinely non-racist, and even some who are closeted bigots, they go around and say, see, look, there's a black person. I love this black person. I love this black person. I'm not a bigot. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. And, and it's disingenuous. I mean, and then they'll turn around and say, oh, wait, you don't like Clarence Thomas. What? You don't like a black person in the court? I don't like Clarence Thomas in the court, not because he's black. I don't like his politics. I'm a civil libertarian. He's not. I support free speech. He don't. I support LGBTQ equality. He doesn't. So that's what it comes down to. It comes down to policy issues, comes down to your perspective on things. And so that's what it comes down to. So, I mean, and again, that's kind of the hill I die on when it comes to people that I would support. People, when it comes right down to ideology. You know me. I mean, I'm probably the very first Bernie bro that exists back in the 1990s. And I'm not saying that with a lot of pride these days. I have some issues with Bernie Sanders. But here's the thing. Do I like Bernie Sanders because he's a Jewish American? It's, just like Clarence Thomas being African American, Bernie Sanders being Jewish has nothing to do with anything. Just as Clarence Thomas being an African American has nothing to do with anything. Clarence Thomas politics suck. Bernie Sanders' supposed core values is what counts, and why I like Bernie Sanders, or why I acted like a hysterical teenage girl in 1965 when the Beatles were coming up on stage going, she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, 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 yeah. Woo! And like a hysterical teenage girl, just kind of like, Bernie, when Bernie Sanders was on TV in the 1990s, and all the way up to the time he started running all the way up to his first presidential run. And then after his 2020 dropout, I started to lose interest, and I suffer from Bernie burnout these days. But when it comes to policy, Bernie Sanders, as far as mainstream politics goes, has the best ideas around. And it's going to be probably another 30 years or so before we get another Bernie around. So that's what's going on there. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Chat line, we got a chat line going on right here. Hot Retarded Chicks, how are you this morning? It's always a pleasure to see you. Let's see, we have bio-homophobe. Homophobia is a problem. This is important too. I know you're joking about invading Russia. I know you're joking. And I can appreciate the humor behind that. And let's see what we got here. Fabulous acting here. Well, I tried to entertain as well as inform. So I will tell each and every one of you should like what you heard. Press like and comment. It helps the algorithms when you press like. Comment if you disagree. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duties are for you to create your own platform and create your own platform and utilize it because we're the muckrakers of our time. Subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. And until next time, we have class war to wage. Let me get these folks off the screen here. We have a class war to wage, and we need to free Julian Assange. So, music. Whenever I get a chance to.